Hello everybody and welcome to week 30's week in review here. Week in review for week 30 on my channel of teaching myself how to draw. As usual, we'll start by looking at the pose practice that I did. And as usual, I have nothing to say, nothing in mind at least. I did practice legs this week, which we'll get into later, and I used some of the kind of the knowledge I gained from that, or the insight or whatever, from focusing specifically on legs in some of these figures. Maybe not at the start of the week here, but as we go along, I might be able to point out some things. But before we get into the legs, I can tell you that I think the issue I'm having is not necessarily with the legs itself, but with the, what do you call it? The pelvis. I think that's where the thing that I don't really understand. The legs are kind of simple, but like, you know, as long as you get the pelvis down, I kind of know what to do with the legs, but it's not always easy for me to know what to do with the pelvis. That's kind of what I learned this week. So, like, for example, this one here is a good example of kind of how I think I should be doing the pelvis, like starting much higher. I've been starting too low with it. Like almost, I feel like I should go like 50% higher up on the body, like this sort of a thing. So you'll notice some of these have like really triangular, you know, like hourglass kind of shapes, where the pelvis really extends all the way up, and some of them are like this. Maybe the male model, it's better to do it lower, I don't really know. But I feel like in a lot of cases, I've been doing, like historically, the pelvis too short, when it should be like, maybe as kind of like long widthwise as like the torso is. I'm not really sure. Yeah, like I'm saying over and over, I'm not really sure. That's kind of one of the things I got of practicing the legs in particular. We'll get to that in a minute here. Yeah, not a whole lot else to say. I'm pretty happy with a lot of these things though. Again, like the stuff like foreshortening, where like stuff like this is going on, I'm getting more used to it. I'm not like paying attention to it at all, but as I get a pose like this, when it comes up, I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And then at the end, it turns out, you know, it wasn't really that big of a deal. Like I've got this subconscious understanding that's kind of growing, you know, with this sort of stuff, which is cool. Because really when I do pose practice, and even stuff like this, you know, the slight depth, I mean, even like this, right? There's depth to everything, and like perspective and everything like that. But when I do pose practice, the main thing I'm focusing on is I'm trying to get like the proportion of everything correct. Like if I have a head this big, everything else should have like a set height based on that, or a set length or whatever, you know, size. That's mainly what I'm trying to do, is match size with stuff when I do this pose practice. I like this pose a lot. I wish I had more time with it. Kind of a cool breakdance one or something. So yeah, forgot what I was talking about. But again, this sort of thing, right? Really long, kind of almost like a deeper pelvis. I think what I should be going for. So yeah, let's filter through the rest of these. Sometimes I feel like it's just too cramped in the middle, you know, and I think I can fix that just by adding a little bit to the pelvis at the top. You know, adding a little bit more of this hourglass. Because the lines on the side, in particular, like this sort of triangle, is pretty flat, you know, on like the sides. I realized that as I was studying the legs this week. And then here's today's. So like this sort of section here is pretty flat along the side. You know, I think of it as like an armor plate or something on like a samurai, you know, they have like those like armor things like that. The side of the leg, I'm kind of like going into basically like this whole area is pretty flat. And if you extend that up kind of into this big, deeper pelvis sort of thing, it seems to help. So anyway, let's actually look at the legs practice. I didn't get it right away, so this is day one. And this is kind of basically, the red ones are from reference, and then the blue is from imagination, by the way. So this is kind of day one, not really, I didn't really have that sort of stuff in mind yet. I was still kind of working through this. You know, a lot of these are pretty good, but some of them are like, you know, this is a foreshortening issue where I was like, okay, it should be getting like bigger as it gets to the knee, but the whole thing is just kind of a little too big here, you know? Like I had some issues like that. Some issues where I was like unsure of how to kind of get this outer curve to kind of go into the knee from like the back down, like in behind, like around kind of like the butt into the leg, you know? Where does that sort of transition happen? A lot of questions on day one here, but I think it turned out pretty good. Some of these are nice. And then day two, I think day two I was still sort of struggling. I didn't really realize anything helpful until I think the latter half of day three and maybe even into day four. So a lot of this is still, you know, I'm still not thinking of the pelvis as tall enough, you know? I can see in my construction lines, I'm still doing it too small. You know, if I were to draw the full figure, you know? It's still too small. Like cutting it off here is too short, you know? I'm realizing now that it's more so the pelvis, right, that I need to think about than the legs, you know? So stuff like this, right? I think this is one of the ones that really kind of helped me, this one was from reference, right? Helped me understand kind of how flat this side can be. This side, kind of side plane of the pelvis here. Kind of like on the hip or like the upper bit of the thigh or whatever, you know? So even today, it's like half and half. I'm trying to find like the point where, I think this was the one where I was like, I started to kind of understand a little more what I was struggling with. And then on day 4 here, I feel like I got it, you know, see I'm doing the pelvis higher now. And I'm trying to keep in mind how flat these side lines can be. Stuff like this, you know, all the way up and then like flat along the side. So all these blue ones from imagination, you know, really keeping that pelvis higher. I think it worked out. I still don't really understand a lot of cases when I'm drawing. Actually, some of these, this was from reference. I feel like some of these were from reference, but I did them blue. I can't remember. Who cares? But you get the idea, right? I don't know what else to say. I feel like I'm almost there with understanding legs, but I kind of went into it thinking I would figure something out more. But basically, all I figured out is that I don't really understand the pelvis as much as I did. So I'll need to, I don't know, think about it a little more going forward. So yeah, that's it with my legs. 100 legs. These 100 challenges are always really fun too. Like they're pretty engaging, I find. I never get bored with them, so it's pretty cool. So yeah, that was that. Oh, I also had a lot of good practice drawing feet. I guess I should mention, hey? I feel like I really get feet now. At least like a simple way of doing them, you know, how to break up the feet. Really quickly and simply like this, you know? I don't really get the ankle, like this sort of area, but the feet I'm understanding more. And same with the calf and like the knee. Like as for the actual leg itself, I feel like I get it more, you know? And the feet too, so yeah, there you go. Next, this weekend I did just some simple, I don't know, I felt like doing some character design or something based off of the weekly prompt. this week, which was, here, I'll show you really quick. Ding. It looks like this. This was the pose. Somebody like kind of holding a camera, and the word was ancient. I didn't really use the word, but I had the idea of like doing something with a camera. Like who would kind of, what kind of like a character with a camera? So I sort of started, I think this was the first I drew. I wanted to have like a big backpack. Like kind of an Indiana Jones, or like a sort of like a military kind of scout with like a camera, maybe like from the, you know, not modern era kind of thing. And I kind of did some doodling and, you know, did like a backpack, maybe like a gun holster sort of thing. And then I started getting into like the uniform design and like a hat. It became very Valkyria Chronicles as soon as I put these cat ears on the hat. But it was pretty fun. So I had the idea of like having like a camera strap and then like a gun holster and like a little radio sort of thing. But aside from that, just like basic attire. And I like the kind of the shorts. I can't remember my explanation. It was like, because it feels kind of like a rookie character, you know? And I feel like having shorts, like having legs exposed, would make it come across more that she's a rookie, you know? And then I got this idea to do this sort of cloak. Kind of like a cloak that, you know, there's like little access points. I can't remember exactly where I saw this sort of thing. It might have also been Valkyria Chronicles. But I like the idea of this sort of a thing, where you can kind of slip your arms through, like crouching in the woods, take a picture and like sneak off, you know? So this was the idea. It was really fun. It kind of came together naturally over the course of about 2 hours, and then the next day I drew something really quick with this kind of character. Sort of. I didn't really know what to do with the colors. I was thinking of just coloring it, but I was like, nah, because I knew that if I started coloring it properly, then I would get sucked in and I'd be drawing for another 4 hours, you know? So I wanted to do it just really quick and clean and like get it done. But I couldn't get satisfied, you know? I was like, I'd try something and I'd be like, nah. Because I was having too much fun with it, but yeah, this is the idea. It's at least sort of the idea, you know? I might revisit this character at some point in the future. I don't really know. Kind of cool. Maybe like work a little more on this design. I don't know. Either way, it was a lot of fun. So, yeah, that's what I did this week. This is my submission for the prompt. So basically it all came from the idea of having a camera, eh? It's kind of cool what you can come up with when you just kind of brainstorm and let things happen. So yeah, that's that. That's my week in review. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back next week with another. Oh yeah, check out my new model, hey? How about that? Alright, thanks for watching, everybody.